David Seymour this morning on breakfast, and one of the things I like about Anna Burns-Francis is she basically was like, "Why weren't you at Ratana?" Because remember, Seymour has already kind of assigned a religious event to Ratana as one of the reasons he wouldn't go. Yet all the other politicians kind of consider it their first political event of the year, whereas Seymour thinks it's a religious event. I'm not going to go to all those things. I can't get to all those things. So let's have a bit of a look at this conversation, because they obviously go into a talk about the referendum. And one of the things I want us to all keep an eye on is he plays the game a little bit of like, well, they may support it, they may not. But obviously he's of the opinion that National hasn't ruled it out. So even if we don't put our own assertions about National's words and Luxon's words, Seymour is saying that National hasn't said definitely no. So that should fill you with dread if you don't want to see this referendum. If you do want to see this referendum, maybe it fills you with hope. Let's have a look at this conversation.
Given the importance of this proposed change to the principles and the opportunity to engage with Māori leaders, why didn't you go to Ratana?
Because there's opportunities to engage with Māori leaders every day if you look for them. I think there's been an assumption amongst some in the media that somehow Ratana is a mandatory thing that everyone must go to. I've never agreed with that. However, I will be at Waitangi, which I regard as the state occasion to celebrate and discuss our nation's founding document.
You think there's going to be a blood sport in Waitangi? What do you reckon? Blood sport at Waitangi?
Yeah.
Not literally, for you people who want to
not literally. They're not going to be lynching politicians, but Waitangi can be robust.
It can be robust.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Just next weekend.
Yeah, it's more than just a conversation at Waitangi, though, and as you do say, there's opportunities for conversations every day. This seemed like a pretty important one, though, an opportunity to meet with iwi leaders gathered in one place and to have some pretty high-level conversations.
Yeah, I mean, you could make that argument, but of course you could start making that argument for just about every event. As you say, the treaty, its meaning to us in 2024 and beyond, those are major topics that people are going to be discussing, I suspect, in a lot of places for a long time to come. And if your basic argument is every politician has to be in every place where it's discussed, then I think ultimately you get into a bit of a silly discussion.
The thing is, no one's making that conversation. No one's saying you have to be everywhere at all times. They're saying, why weren't you at this particular event? I mean, an event that had 10,000 people the weekend before it, and then an event that most politicians seem to consider the first political event of the year. No one's talking about why didn't you go to the opening of the dairy on the corner of Epsom. They're going, why didn't you attend what many consider to be the first political event of the year? So the dismissive nature, I hope people aren't buying, because it's not just any event. It's considered by most in politics to be the first political event of the year. The House is not sitting yet officially. That's sort of the first event of the year. So yeah, let's not play games around, oh, this is just another event. This is like cutting the ribbon at my local supermarket. No, it's a bit different than that.
No, it's maybe not necessarily that. It's the converse side of that, which is, why did it become so important to you to not go and have that conversation, given that this is different to perhaps previous years where you would have said it wasn't necessary for you to go, when this year we are debating the treaty principles?
Oh, Anna, I haven't said it's so important to not go either.
Well, you made a point of not going instead of going in a year that we are discussing treaty principles.
Well, again,
Jesus.
I think you're trying to make a point about me not going. I just make the point that there are many events. Nobody can go to all of them.
Okay.
She's right, though. I mean, that doesn't answer the question. Why? Okay, let's ask this. Why did you deprioritize this event? Can we put it that way? Yes, there are many events. Yes, you can't go to all of them. Why was this one at the bottom of the list not worth your time versus, for example, the 7,000 attended event the previous weekend, which you literally said a prayer at, saying you don't like religious events? So that would be a fair way to say it, maybe, Chewy. I mean, journalists do their job and they get what they can get, but there's also ways you can get around this. That there's a perfect question there. Why did he choose to deprioritize it?
Any other year, I think he would have been able to get away with it. Had people ever cared that Seymour was at Ratana or not? I must admit, my own knowledge of Ratana is pretty weak, And I must admit, I never really understood why it was such an important political thing for like a religious movement. I didn't understand that. This week has been eye-opening for me, I tell you that much.
Cool.
But yeah, it's any other year. But when it's an event that so many Māori put a lot of weight on,
and talking about your policy, it's an event that's dominated by your policy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cop-out because he knew he wouldn't be able to, he would just get lashed. And I get it. Who wants to sit in a chair in the sun and have just a line around the building of people wanting to take their time at the mic and just strip layers of skin off them? I get it. If you can nope out of that and go and do something else, why wouldn't you? But just be honest. I don't want to go. Don't want to go. Didn't think it'd be productive.
Or not even didn't think, because I think that would be a lie. Didn't think it'd be productive. I didn't want to go. Stop there. That's all you need. You don't have to justify it. You could just say that. Like Rua was saying here, context, David. You're literally the party putting the treaty debate on the table. You don't go to Ratana, important event with Māori. And I'll add on to the end of Rua's message there, where they were discussing his policy. That's another part of this as well.
And look, it would have been, if you want to put a plus in Seymour's column, it would have been good practice.
Yeah.
For Waitangi Day.
Yeah, good warm-up.
Jesus, he's going to need it.
All right, let's keep going.
The Prime Minister, of course, did go. You heard his statement, I hope, just then about his support for the proposed rewriting of the principles. Is he misleading the public into thinking that his support stops dead in the water at the first reading?
No, I think he's being perfectly open and honest. He's saying on that clip you just heard exactly what he's saying to me privately, that there is no commitment in either direction to vote for the Treaty Principles Act after it's been written, introduced to Parliament, debated in Parliament and gone off for public submission so that New Zealanders can have a say on what our founding document means for our constitutional future. After that, all bets are off. If you want my reckons, I'm not sure you do, but I'll tell you, I believe that whether or not this thing goes any further will depend on how the public responds. And my view is that we've needed to have a real discussion about what these treaty principles mean, because they're so important to New Zealand life, but they've also been held back from any kind of parliamentary discussion or definition for such a long time. I suspect it'll be a more popular initiative than people currently think, and the support will continue. But hey, I could be wrong. My job is to persuade people of that.
So we'll leave it there. That pretty much gives the summation, because I think one of the things that it's like I said about Seymour actually on Twitter over the weekend. I was like, when Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And what he's showing us is he thinks it's still alive. Now, is he just pandering to his base? We heard rumours last year that there was various groups going to get behind him to do a citizens initiated referendum on the principles of the treaty. Does he really think it's dead in the water? I get the sense that he doesn't. And if he doesn't think it's dead in the water and he actively is saying what we're talking about in private, then I would just go, doesn't feel dead in the water to me.
I think Seymour had a really good idea there. I think we should all do what he says.
What did he say? Remind me.
It's going to be open for public submission.
Yeah.
Now, all of the folks watching this now live and watching us later on, make a submission. He wants to know what people think of the treaty and how we interpret it these days. He wants to know what people think of the position of Māori in our society and what makes up, as he describes, the constitutional future of this country. I suggest we tell him. Now, I know making a submission is not very sexy. It's not being on the front line of the Springbok tour or something like that. But it is something that he is telling us will have some weighting. And I think there's far too much of just venting your spleen on Facebook or coming onto the show and telling us what you think in the chat. Do a submission. I'm going to.
Yeah.
because I think this is just too important to leave it up to chance. Any opportunity we have to communicate how we feel about the treaty and what it means to this country and what we think of Māori and what position in society they should have and whether we're deathly afraid of the death of democracy, I think we need to make those submissions. So that's what I think we should do.
Very good. Maybe what we can do is figure out how to do a submission and do a how-to guide or something, put it up online somewhere to make it easier for people to do that unsexy thing.
I think the main thing is you don't need to be a lawyer to do a submission. It is plain language. And it's just the hardest thing about making a submission is finding where to do it.
Yeah.
On the fantastic government website. But I'm sure once we see it,
yep.
We will tell everyone. We will point you in the direction, and you just go and you tell them exactly what you think.